Hello sunshine, welcome to my vlog. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for watching my vlogs because you encourage me a lot. And if you are a new subscriber, please subscribe. So today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic. You have heard about people asking what are the dangers of premarital sex, and others argue and ask, why should I not have sex before marriage? It's all right. So today we are going to talk about that worm that has continued to eat up the Christians and even non-Christians in the world today and has led to continuous immorality on the earth. And apart from immorality, it has led to many people who are very broken. They're very heartbroken. They're very emotionally damaged. Mental health issues have continued to spread simply because of that, and even some people have died, some people have committed suicide because of depression or because of other issues. And this worm actually affects us both physically, spiritually and mentally, and people never realize its danger at all. We continue to indulge in it without realizing how it is going to finish us before we even know. So it's not about sex only. A lot of things happen when you indulge in sex before marriage. It's actually very different from just having sex in marriage. People who are in marriage will actually tell you. And so today I want to tell you my story before I just begin and tell you about the dangers of sex before marriage. So when I finished university, that one I think was in, are you ready to guess my age? That was in 2016. So when I finished university, I had planned to just live my life for God. And so maybe I have not told you, I'm just going to tell you today that my dad is a bishop. So I had all the time to be in church and just give back my life to God and just be busy in the house of God. And that is exactly what I did. I just gave my life back to God, and I was so busy in the house of God. So during this time, I was available for crusades, I was available for door-to-door evangelism, I was available for home fellowship or whatever you call them, just going to a believer's house and having fellowship with them as a group for 2 hours or 3 hours and then go home. I was available for crusades. I was available for everything in the church. I would go to church early, and so I interacted a lot with members of the church at that time. So it was during this time that one time I'm added to a WhatsApp group of a friend in church, and where they were contributing funds for a wedding. So inside this WhatsApp group, a guy actually DMs me. And so my weakness at that point was I was so attracted to guys who are good looking. So I looked at the profile picture of that guy on WhatsApp, and it was cool. It was just a fine guy. So I was like, you know what, this is a good time to start off friendships which could lead to marriages. Honest friendships are good. So we went ahead to converse, and we became good friends, and we will talk and have very long calls, and we will actually go for mission together and for evangelism together and all that. Then there's a day during the week where he called me and told me that day in the evening he will be having members of the church, a few members of church from church in his house who are coming for Bible study in his house. So that is the home fellowship. So I told him I had something to do, but I will come later in the day. And I finished what I was doing so late. So I had gone for an interview, I think. So I came back late, and I still went for the home fellowship. I arrived, I think, at 6, and guys were leaving at that time. So guys were few. So when I left when I arrived, guys were leaving, and so they left, and we were left, like the two of us, at around 6:30 going to 7. So So because I was late and this guy is my friend, I was just okay, this guy will drop me, and there was no problem. After all, we are born again. So along the way, my friend begins to touch me inappropriately. Actually, I was seated in another chair in his house, so he leaves the chair where he's seated, he comes to the chair where I'm seated, and he begins to touch me inappropriately. So for a minute, I pretended not to realize what he was doing before he will get more inappropriate. So you know how they start by holding your arm, then the next thing they're putting their hands on your thighs, and the next thing they're going to very inappropriate places. So that's exactly what happened. So the next minute it gets very inappropriate, and I stood up very, very angry. And I remember I became someone else, and I really quarreled him, and I left very furious. After that, he will write me messages to ask me for forgiveness. After church, he asked to meet me so that we'll talk about it. But anyway, for me, my stand remains: there's no sex before marriage, and anybody who behaves inappropriately like that in church is actually even worse than a murderer. So that's exactly what I did. I cut my communication with him completely, and I was not talking to him in church, I was not meeting him, and I was not getting involved in activities which he is involved with in church. After all, I'm the daughter of the bishop, so I can decide which department to go. Nobody has to force me, and if I come to this department where I don't work every day, nobody has an issue with that. So that is what happened. So 3 months down the line, I hear the bishop, my dad, talking about another wedding that is coming up in church. And when I hear of the name is very familiar to me. And then the next Sunday, during the week, he had talked about that name, and then on Sunday they are called the first announcement in church about their wedding, and his name was mentioned, and he came in front, and another lady came in front, and they were prayed for, and they were allowed to prepare for their wedding as they wait for the second and the third announcement before they can wed. All right, you guys, you don't know what I went through at that point. What I was asking myself was, what if I gave in? Because if I gave in that day, I would be a used object right now, like very used. I would be feeling so used. Here I am, I'm used. Here I am, I'm the daughter of a bishop. I'm born again. Imagine all that was happening would have happened to me. Why? So, you know, it got me to a point that I was asking myself, why me? Why is it that for me, he looked at me and he thought that I'm an object of sex, but there is another lady somewhere that he had kept for marriage. And you know, it really stressed me up. So for a long time, I was just asking myself, why me? Because one thing about me, people who know me, that I don't dress inappropriately. Meaning, you can't find me in a place. Most of the time, the clothes that I wear actually cover me, most of my body parts. So you don't expect that maybe I had attracted him by the way I was dressed on that day. No. So for a long time, I was asking myself, why did he think that for me I was an object of sex, but there's a lady somewhere that was meant for marriage? It really disturbed me, and this week I actually shared with a friend of mine who is in worship, and I was telling her, you know what, there's a danger in giving yourself out for sex simply because you think you are in love with someone else, because there are people who actually know who you are, and according to them, maybe you are not the person they're supposed to marry, and they just want you to smash and go. So I was telling her, even her, she's not married, so I was telling her, if there's one thing people need to think about and not get into, especially ladies, because the man actually never remains with the evidence of sex. Most of the time it's the ladies, because you just fall in love, and like that day it will have happened just once, and you're pregnant, and you're in church and all that. So I was just thinking a lot about sex before marriage, and I took my time just to Google and to read articles about what are the dangers of sex before marriage. Because apart from the story of a friend of mine who tried to touch me inappropriately, of which that would have led to sex, there are also other friends who along the way I met, because after campus people go through a lot. After your first degree, people go through a lot in the name of dating and relationships. And so there's also another, I think there's also another guy who actually also did that and was so good to me and all that, and then before you know, they're getting married. And most of the time when they have sex with you, they actually go and tell their best friends who are also guys, and they will actually come and talk about you. And you know, it's a whole lot of evil. So I just thank God that my stand always remains that there is no, for me it's a no. I don't even think about it. I don't even argue about it. It doesn't matter how much I love you. It doesn't matter. For me, I know at the end of the day, I'm the one who's going to remain with the wound. For you, maybe it's your lifestyle. It's your lifestyle, sleeping with this one and moving along, sleeping with this and moving along, and maybe even those emotional damages are part of your life. You know how to deal with them. But for me, I'm the one who's going to remain with the emotional damage. I'm the one who's going to remain with pain. I'm the one who's going to remain with mental health issues, depression and all that. I'm the one who's going to be hurt. So I choose not to engage in sexual immorality or sex before marriage for my own benefit. So enough of that story. In this vlog, I'm going to take you through about some of the dangers of having sex before marriage. And you will thank me if you follow the dangers and you just stop sex before marriage. You will actually thank me later, because these same people who actually tell you that they love you and all that, most of the time they've actually kept someone else somewhere for marriage. The only problem is they don't want maybe the person, like for example, if someone is dating me and my stand for marriage is I don't have sex before marriage, and they still want to have sex anyway, they will go to someone else, have sex with them, but they have kept me for marriage. So that is the danger of having sex in church, especially. In church, my friend, you better even have sex with someone who is not a church goer instead of a church goer, because a church goer actually wants, you know, white wedding, they want the attention and they want a wedding that everybody will talk about. At the end of the day, you'll be the subject of scorn. They will talk about you in a bad way. People will gossip you. People will think you are against that marriage, that wedding and all that. So please, hey, let's go. So the first danger of sex before marriage is wrong choice of marriages, because you look at it this way. Once you have sex with someone and you are pregnant, and maybe you are in church or maybe you are not in church, or if your parent insists that they have to marry you, oh my God, you end up getting married to someone that you only had a one-night stand. It was never, there was no emotions involved, there is no love involved. It was, you just met, maybe it's a colleague, or maybe it is just a friend that the emotions were just starting to grow, and for you, you went all in, and now after sex is when they are realizing, oh, I didn't even feel you as much as I think I did. So most of the time you end up getting married for the wrong reasons, because you make choice based on the fact that, you know, now a child is on the way, or, you know, people will talk about me in my family. I can't let my child grow without in the context of a family, and you end up getting married to someone that you didn't love. In the process, you know, you'll take each other for granted, you know, and infidelity will creep in, and you start being unfaithful in the marriage, you know. So most of the time, sex before marriage, as much as guys are so happy, they're going for the baby shower and all that, and telling your friends, you know, I'm expecting and all that, the problem is after you reveal to your boyfriend about the fact that you are pregnant, what will be the response? Most of the time, guys are so scared of of kids that's so scared of responsibilities. It's not even because they don't love you. No, they actually do. The only problem is the responsibilities. They're not prepared for that, as like you know, ladies are like mothers. They're actually prepared to take care of people, so they don't have a problem taking care of a child. But for men, they're really scared of taking care of people and the changes that will follow. And so you will find that because of the fear of the changes that will happen, a man can actually say no, refuse the child, and most of the time people judge them. Actually, it's not because they like it. They actually come to change their minds later after dealing with the fear. But it comes later in age. You find that maybe they're now 40, the child is now all grown up, you're the one who has struggled with that child. Now they want that child back because they actually had fear before. So please, 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 you don't want to go through all that trauma. You don't want to get married to someone that you don't love, someone that you have not invested enough emotions to allow you to get married to them and enjoy life. So please, sex before marriage has that danger. The second danger is it brings a setback or delay. It actually brings delay because you find that you get so, for example, you could invest emotionally in someone when you date them, because it is not always just sex only. A lot of emotional baggages are exchanged when you have sex with someone, and so the process is very strong emotional bondage that brings you two together, and that is what is called soul tie. So the soul tie can actually keep you for many years praying that God will join you together with the person that you have has actually stopped loving you, and you continue praying and wishing that you guys could be together, and you continue chasing on them like a clown on social media, and even in their real life, to find out who are they dating. And some people actually go to an extent of calling the other person they're dating just to quarrel them. My friend, it's all a waste of time. It is a setback in your life. It's a delay, because I know of a friend of mine who actually dated a guy when she was in campus. And he loved that guy to an extent that they had actually planned everything. How? At that point, when they broke up, she was in 4th year. So when she was in 4th year, they had actually agreed that once she graduates, she was to graduate in December. So the same graduation party, this guy was to come for introduction together with his parents in her home, and everything was all planned up, and they were to get married the next year in April. I think so. So imagine this guy in 4th year actually ended this relationship, and in October, okay, I think this was maybe July, or I don't know. But in October, actually, this guy married someone else after, breaking up with this lady. And let me tell you, till now, this lady is actually 30-something, but she was so hurt to an extent that she spent a lot of time grieving over this guy instead of, continuing with her life, falling in love again, and just taking care of herself and being there for herself and the people that she loves. She mourned for such a long time because she had invested a lot of emotions. She had planned things in her head, so she wasted a lot of time. That is what we call emotional setback. And and most of the time you find that, like, now she's 30-something, she will actually decide to start falling in love maybe when she's maybe 35 or going to 40. She wasted all those years mourning over someone else who's already married to someone else, and they're actually happy. So that is the problem with sex before marriage. A lot of baggage is exchanged. The soul tie that you've read about everywhere and you've watched videos about everywhere actually is a tool of the enemy to delay people's lives. And that tool, the enemy only makes it through sex. So that is what happens in sex before marriage. That is the second danger. The third danger is that you stand a chance of ruining your entire life. You ruin your entire life because of the emotional baggage. You could, contract HIV/AIDS. You could get teenage pregnancies. You could get trauma when the process of carrying that pregnancy and even giving birth to that child. You could go through a lot of trauma. You could be abandoned by your parents because they're not happy with the choice that you have actually made. You could get STDs. You could get early divorce because, as I told you, you get into marriages because someone is pregnant. That's a wrong choice. You take each other for granted, and in the process you actually can't hold on water in your mouth for such a long time. You'll get to a point where you'll swallow or you'll spit. So that is the same way with marrying someone who is not the right person. In the process, at the end of the day, you'll actually divorce. So it will not go anywhere. So sex before marriage actually ruin your entire life. The delays actually ruin your entire life. The soul ties ruin your entire life. Your purpose actually changes. You actually begin to focus on the other person and you lose yourself in the process. There's intense emotional bond that holds you together with the other person, and you could, your children could be part of this emotional, problem that you're going through, and they could grow up having mental health issues. The child that you're going to give birth to, because maybe you divorce and your child have to separate, or you have to co-parent, that process. You end up having children who have mental health issues. Another thing is that your parents may not be happy with you and they could abandon you, and the process of being abandoned will actually make you very depressed. It make you very unhappy even in that marriage that you are into, because let me tell you, when you get into relationships, a part of you actually gets close to your family. You actually just want to go back to your family. You want to be loved, you want to be appreciated, you want your family to love the marriage that you get into. So just be rest assured that sex before marriage will actually ruin your life, your entire life completely. The next thing that it will do, it will make you lose focus. It will make you lose focus. Let's say if you're a student, you can't continue studying anymore. If it is a colleague you're dating, your productivity will actually go down because you focus so much on this colleague. Maybe jealousy will get in, people will gossip you in the process, and you could actually ruin your job by you will be sent out of work and all that. So you lose a lot of focus when you are engaging in sex before marriage. There are things that you're supposed to do as you prepare yourself for marriage. In terms of career, you should be studying and getting degrees after degrees. That is one. Number two, maybe you need to do a course and increase yourself. Number three, you need to teach yourself, teach yourself so that you can deal with some of your weaknesses. There's a lot of things that you need to do. You need to get from one career to another, from one job to another, interviews to interviews, so that you stabilize in your career also. So you're actually wasting a lot of time when you are engaging in sex before marriage instead of preparing yourself for the marriage itself, because a lot of issues happen in marriage, like financial problems. That one you could have taken care of if you actually increased yourself by going, invested in yourself by taking a course, graduating and all that before you ventured into this marriage. But if you just got into this marriage because you got pregnant, you actually, distracted yourself from several things that you're supposed to do as you prepare yourself for this marriage. So it will actually, interfere with your focus on several things that you're supposed to do. And it gets to a point, you find, you feel the pressure, because you find that you now have the child, you need to take care of the child, you need to go to work for this child. Apart from that, you need to go back to school, you need to finish your studies, time is going. Schools also have their policy. If you don't go to school after such amount of time, they actually discontinue you. So it's a whole lot of problems. So let me tell you, if you're in campus and you're enjoying sex before marriage, let me tell you, most of the time, 99% of the time, it leaves you with the damage that you have to deal with for a better part of your life. The last thing is that you stand a chance of missing heaven at last. Okay, this is because I know maybe this will not make sense to you, because you can say, after all, what is the difference, what is the similarity between my spirituality and, you know, sex before marriage. After all, I can repent and, you know, change my ways and all that. Let me tell you, it is only the heart that is peaceful that can serve God. Most of the people in this world actually cannot, you know, just focus on God, because their past, a lot of things are so full in their head. They are chasing a lot of things. The Bible says chasing after the wind. Because if you can remember the story of Mary and Martha, Mary was seated at the feet of Jesus. That is the heart that can serve God, the heart that is seated at the feet of Jesus. And you cannot sit at the feet of Jesus unless you are peaceful. You don't have many things you're chasing. Most of the things seems to be all right. Your heart has made peace with yourself and peace with God and peace with people. That is the heart that can serve God. But the heart that is dealing with HIV/AIDS, a heart that is dealing with other diseases like STDs or STIs, a heart that is dealing with heartbreak, a heart that is dealing with divorce, a heart that is, you know, co-parenting. Such a heart, or a heart that has been broken and you are not able to remarry again, such a heart has a lot of issues that it deals with. You have a lot of emotional baggage that you carry that, let me tell you cannot even pray. If you kneel down to pray, you remember many things that has happened to you that you need to deal with, many things that have hurt you that you need to deal with. Such a heart cannot worship God. It is only a heart that is peaceful, and a heart that, you know, is at a lot of peace, and a heart that has no regrets, a heart that has not been heartbroken, or if it has been heartbroken over time, it has made peace. Or maybe you're just heartbroken by one person, and then the next person was the right guy for you or the right lady for you, and, you know, you got married and things are okay. Such a heart does not even understand why people cannot serve God, because such a heart is so peaceful and easily drawn to God. But a heart that is easily distracted with the issues and the pain of this world actually is difficult to serve God. You find that you want to serve God, but there is emotional baggages. You want to serve God, but here you are carrying an STI. You want to serve God, here is your partner who has left you. You want to serve God, here your children who have mental health issues, who cannot even listen to you. They don't even love you. They blame you for all the mistakes that has happened in their lives. So these are the baggages that sex before marriage actually leaves you with. And imagine, it is actually possible to live without sex until you're married. The only problem is the world has idolized sex such that they think that you cannot have a relationship and not involve in sex. It is very possible to have a relationship and not involve in sex. And let me tell you, people, if once you decide that you're going to stay without sex until you get married, when you tell the other person, they will actually obey. Because right now, I'm actually dating someone that I actually met, and I told him, you know what, me, I don't want sex before marriage. I only want to get married, and it has to be a white wedding and all that. And by the time I was telling him, he was not even in a good job actually. And actually, imagine, simply because he loved me, there's a lot of things that he has done in the process, and I see, and he updates me, simply because he wants just to have me, and he has made a lot of, you know, sacrifices, simply because he wants to do it the exact way that I want it. Because for him, the exact lady that he wants is me. So it is actually very possible to stay without sex until you get married, and it is possible to be in a relationship and not engage in sex. And most of the time people ask me, how can you stay without sex until marriage? I think I will talk about that in another video, but the secret is just one. Just make sure whatever you're reading, whatever you're listening to, and whatever you're talking about is very clean. There's no filthy language and coarse jokes involved in it. When you talk about such, you know, sexual terms, when you are, you know, engaging in talks with people, when you chat, you see these simple things like, you know, send me this, I want to see, how are you, what are you doing, I'm sleeping, send me a photo. You know, those things actually leads to sex actually. That is why even having calling for such a long time, talking about really nothing completely, actually leads to sex. certain questions that are very, you know, they don't have a lot of meaning. They are very careless questions like, what are you doing now? Can I come over? You know, such things. Sex actually comes when an opportunity is available. So when you get an opportunity, that's when sex before marriage comes. So you need to keep your mind, you need to keep your, you know, even your tongue, your eyes, all, they need to be clean. And you have to do it deliberately, so that you don't watch a movie that, you know, has sex scenes. You don't, you know, listen to a song that, you know, makes you want to have sex. You make sure your mind is so clean. And finally, you need to do exercise. And most of the time I encourage people to do exercise in the morning. Exercises, because morning exercises will actually keep you very tired by the end of the day. When you're tired by the end of the day, you don't have a problem with sleeping. You get into your bed and you sleep completely, so you don't have an issue about masturbation. You don't have an issue about, you know, careless talks on phone or careless conversations that might end up leading to sex before marriage. And let me tell you, when you keep yourself for God, God is very faithful to give you someone. But when you actually sleep around and you expect to find someone who will be faithful to you, it's just like chasing after the wind. It is a waste of time, pure waste of time. If you want to have a faithful relationship, you got to keep yourself faithful, because when I keep myself faithful, it is not for me. I'm keeping myself faithful to God. And when you keep yourself faithful to God, God is very faithful to keep for you someone else who will also be faithful to you and bring you together. So if you've always thought that it is not possible to have a relationship without sex, that is totally wrong. And if you are engaging in sex before marriage right now and you want to stop it, you can actually stop it and live a life, you know, without sex until you get married. If your end game is to get married, then you better stop having sex with the person you're having sex with. And let me just surprise you that it is very possible to, you know, stop having sex with the person that you're dating right now, and at the end of the day still date them. It is very possible. You only need to make a choice that, you know what, I don't want to engage in this, you know, sex before marriage, and not talk about marriage, because at the end of the day I just want to get married. If you're just easily having sex, at the end of the day this person may find someone else who wants to get married, and they're speaking the same language, and this person leaves you and get married to someone else, and you begin to blame them. The only problem is you never set the record right and let this person know that, you know what, let's plan how we are going to get married, because we are not going to have sex forever. We have to get married. The end game of this relationship is for us to get married. So please, I hope this video was informative to you, and if it was informative, then you will have to leave for me a like, you know, a thumbs up, and leave a comment. Tell me about how sex before marriage actually has brought a lot of dangers in your life, and tell me if you are ready to let go and start off afresh with God and just be celibate and keep yourself for God, because God is faithful to give you someone else who also wants such life with you, and such a sacrifice is pleasing to God, and God is faithful to give you the exact person that you want. So God bless you so much. See you again next time. Bye.